I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Alder.
Here.
Alderman Flores.
Here.
Alderman Galloway.
Here.
Do we have Alderman Hutchinson?
She may not make it because the shuttle bus had a flat tire
Okay,
and she says she may be late now.
okay.
She's on vacation.
Alderman Owen,
Here.
Alderman Snyder.
Here.
We have 5 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
First, we'll go to the minutes of the previous meetings. We'll turn to August 17th. The non-legislative session. Have y'all had a chance to look at those? Was there any corrections that anything to be pointed out? Not seeing none. I entertain a motion. Okay, and seconded by. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the August 17th, 2023, the non-legislative session. Motion made by Alderman Alder and a second by Alderman Flores. All in favor of voting in motion to approve these minutes, do so by show of hands. Okay, and it does carry. Okay, we have one staying. Next, let's move to the August 21st, 2023 regular meeting. Any questions about? Not seeing any, is entertain a motion? Okay, seconded by. Okay, so regarding the August 21st, 23 regular meeting minutes, motion was made by Alderman Snyder, second by Alderman Flores. All in favor of voting on the motion to approve these minutes, do so by show of hands. Okay, and yes. Next, we're going to have a similar matter. We have a proclamation at this time. Would the Daughters of the Revolution please come up front, please? Y'all pros, I got to forgive this.
Well, yeah, last year we were up there, so somebody. Around here, yeah, we'll just stand for just a moment.
Out there inside.
No, you should be in this morning.
Well, I'll read it to y'all first.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do the picture and all.
Okay.
I was telling the ladies, my grandmother is a bunker. And my family goes back to Bunker Hill, we got the Battle of Hill, we studied that. So I just kind of, my connection with this. And yes, my grandmother is very, very proud. I'm very honored to read this proclamation tonight. Okay. Whereas September 17th, 2023 marks the 236th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting and proper to afford official recognition to this magnificent document as memorable anniversary and a patriotic celebration which would commemorate the occasion. Whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. And now, therefore, I, Don Kearns, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Ozark, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th, 23rd, year 2023 as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being American, to all the rights and responsibilities which that honor holds. Okay. So, did you use some pictures?
Sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm Sherry Ernest. I'm the chapter regent. And on behalf of Garrison chapter, would like to give the city of Ozark this in honor of the Constitution.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Let's do this.
Yes. Trade pictures.
Thank you very much.
Let's get one with the proclamation too. How about that?
Somebody take a picture of me.
This right here.
Yeah. Come on, Sarah. I see you. Yes. Thank you.
Now, Alderman, after tonight to be a quiz on what my grandmother's maiden name was. Okay, let's moving on. There's no, as for scheduled visitors or guests at this time, we're going to move to the first reading of our bills. We're going to begin now with bill number 3474.
Your Honor, I make a motion to place bill number 3474 on its first reading by title and description only, please.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have bill number 3474 by title only, the first reading. Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, second by Alderman Galloway. All in favor of this motion to discuss bill 3474, do so by show of hands. And it carries.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Crawford Murphy and Tilly Incorporated for engineering services related to the Transportation Alternatives Program Grant 99-01-851 for the Chadwick Flyer Spur Trail.
Thank you. At this time, Director Sampane will come.
No.
Oh, I sure did. I took it. Here you go.
Sorry. I'm not sure how I still sound like this, but it is better. And this might just be the new me. I'm not sure. So.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm gonna keep my water up here too. So earlier this spring, we brought forward 2 grants from MoDOT. It was a TAP grant 851 and TAP grant 852, where we went and you approved for a program agreement for it. So now we're bringing forward the second part of the project, which is this is TAP grant 851. It's the Chadwick Flyer Spur. We were awarded a TAP grant. It's $124,200. That's an 80-20 split between both federal and then our local match. The estimated cost of the project when we bid this out was $155,250. The project will utilize grant funds administered by the OTO. And then let me kind of explain where it actually works. So this is the Chadwick Flyer, like the OC is basically right here. And for people in the audience, the OC is like basically down here. This is the new Chadwick Flyer. About midway up, we've got easements. These are already established easements. Right here is the high school. Sorry, I'm going both sides so everybody can see. So what we're trying to do is connect the Ozark High School to the Chadwick Flyer. Just the other day I saw on Chit Chat where someone was complaining that the kids after school were running across country kids, dodging the traffic. And I thought, oh, that's perfect timing to bring this forward because this is a good connector for those running kids. It would basically let them leave the high school, come all the way down the OC, all the way back around, and be a good path for them and not have to get on any of the highways, because I do see them kind of darting in and out of there on 14. So this would basically allow that. Right here, Parkview, this isn't currently built. They're in the process of building it. If it's not done by the time, we do have the sidewalk buyout program, so they'll all kind of fit together. So if it's not done, we can do the buyout program. Basically, it'll connect from here down this little sidewalk. It'll come across this right of way easement and come all the way down to the Chadwick Flyer, connecting the two. The initial 425 feet, which is this bluish line, will be 10 foot, then it'll go to a sidewalk, and then it'll go into the school. So that's kind of what that last asterisk stuff is for. This is a contract to go with to design work. It's with CMT to align with funding. Basically, as long as we get this designed and go out to bid before summer of 2024, that'll align with all our funding requirements. This is just kind of a bigger picture so that you can see, you see where it connects to the OC, and then it basically connects all the way to the high school. We've evaluated consulting firms that were listed on the MoDOT call list. This again is TAP grant 851. The city has chosen CMT, Crawford, Murphy and Tilly. The budgeted, we approved it in the 2023 budget, and then there's the GL code. It's under the transportation sales tax line. So I actually included this picture. This is that group of kids that's right outside the OC. They did a, as you might remember, they did a butterfly exhibit. So that kind of ties that all in. It'll actually get them to the OIC as well. So they will connect the high school to the OC, which then allows them to get to the OIC as well. So it's a good connection, and I think it'll be make a big difference for the school. We're working with them, trying to talk about funding. So we've got meetings set up to talk to the school as well. Do you have any other questions?
Any questions?
I kind of went out there and took pictures. You don't know where it is. I know it's just kind of a random spot, but basically like it just goes off the road and heads that way. So that's just in the pictures of the project.
Okay, Alderman Snyder?
Can you please go back one slide or one forward, one slide? One more, please. You have the pictures you took of the sidewalks.
Mhm.
Are those imperfections, or is that going to be construction, or how is that sidewalk? Is it falling apart, or?
No, we just did a walkthrough. There were some issues with it, but they went through and redid all of that stuff. So no.
So that stuff is not there anymore, those cracks.
Oh, no, it is exactly the way that it is, but they're filled in. You can't see it. There's my like little tiny, like kind of looks like cat litter. I know that's not a very good term for it, but that's essentially what it is. They used 3 different pours when they did it. And so they went back through, it's been verified, like they've tested it all. They're saying that there shouldn't be any problems with that. And that's not this project, just as a reminder, that is not this project. The project goes off the side of this project.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Since this first reading, we'll open up to the public. Anyone here who wants to speak for bill number 3474? Or against? Not seeing any movement. Last chance for the board. Okay, therefore, bill number 3474 will be held to a future meeting. Moving on now, we'll go now to bill number 3475.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to place bill number 3475 on its first reading by title only, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so bill number 3475 by title only for the first reading. Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, second by Alderman Flores. All in favor of voting on this motion to discuss bill number 3475, do so by show of hands. And it carries. Yes, ma'am.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with AT Urban Development Incorporated for construction services.
And welcome back.
Mine, it's on the back of mine. It's just the second part of my document. Okay, this is kind of an exciting project. It's probably one of my favorites right now. If you recall back, I went back to see when you guys actually approved it. The board approved a community forest. It's called a community forest plan is essentially what it is. It is what manages how and what we do at the community forest. When we went out for the grant, they said that we had to come up with this plan. Like it was part of the grant requirements. So it has been adopted by the city. Maybe back in 2022, I believe is when we did it. It is on our website and I can get you all copies of it. Just for simplistic purposes, I didn't print it. This is the scope of work that we're going out for is to create 2,040 linear feet of new fencing along the eastern and southern border. if we go back to this picture, let me see if I got a bigger one, this one. You'll see right here, this red line is where the border is. And in their design, they requested a trail to go all the way around here. So what we're requesting is a fence to go along the southern and eastern side. To get this started, because this is the first trail that we were wanting to build. If you see right here in this blue area, for everyone else, this is the fin. It takes a very long time to develop. We actually have a slope fin, and we didn't know we were gonna have something so cool. It has 4 springs back there. You can see the little blue circles. But in the forestry plan, which I have a copy of, they basically call out saying that people need to stay out of that area. So one of the things that we're asking for is an installation of an outlook platform right there. And it'll go right here to overlook this fin, because they ask that people stay out. Right, guys, little platform will go right here. Right here. It even says right on, it says viewing deck, so that you can see the platform. That is in this thing, and then also 7,500 square feet of 10-foot wide concrete trail, which will be ADA compliant, and you'll see that also in the design plan. It starts right here, comes up, and then goes to the house and goes back. So the 3 things that in this project are the fencing. That will take care of the eastern and southern border. It is the ADA compliant that takes you from when you come into Garrison Springs up to the house. It's a 10-foot wide trail, and then the platform. We went out to bid and we received 2 sealed bids. We would like to move forward with the contract from AT Urban, which are the same people that's doing the culvert right now. The appropriated funds were done in 2023. It is coming out of the parks budget. And it's actually a line that's called Garrison Springs. So, do you have any questions about this?
I believe, okay, Alder, go first.
Sam, refresh my memory. How's that fence going to look? What is it?
So the fence is an agricultural fence. It is about this tall, and it goes, it's barbed wire on the bottom, so it's open, because we do control burns and we also want animals to be able to go through, so it's agricultural friendly in terms of like turtles can get under. And but it doesn't allow people to climb over, so it's not full barbed wire, it's just 2 bars on the bottom and then a woven is the right word. Woven.
Oh, woven.
Woven.
Yes, woven.
Woven. Fence.
And this just covers, well, you said that, the eastern and southern side.
This
not
covers the eastern and southern side right now, so this is basically where you come into Garrison Springs, and this is where the culvert was done. Sorry, I'm having to double do this so everyone can see here. It takes care of this southern side and around this eastern side, which is where we're hoping to build the trail to start with.
And eventually the fence will go all the way around.
We would like for it to, yes, basically right along this, in between this yellow line and this red line, all the way around the property. But this is something that's gonna have to be done in phases as we kind of move through the process.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Snyder.
Ms. Payne, with regard to the fin, that is a one of a kind, is that correct in this area?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's going to be a viewing platform built on the far side for viewing the fin, is that correct?
Correct.
Will our folks with disabilities be able to access that?
They will not be able to access it in phase 1. And I figured you were going to ask this question. So whenever you go out for a grant, connectivity is really the thing that you want it to do. You want to connect 2 things. If you have 2 pearls, that's the best way that you're going to get a grant pass through. Our intent is to later try and develop a path that looks very similar to these all the way across there. And it will go from the house, sorry guys, I can pull down and forth on me. Basically from the house, and then it'll keep that safe. Because it does call out of the community forest plan that people aren't supposed to be on it. So we have to create a kind of a unique way to get them there. There's a couple cities down in Arkansas that do the same thing. And that's kind of how they deal with this marshy area to get people across. Like I said, it's better to have connectivity. So to make the connection for the majority of people that can get there, and then we can work on getting an ADA compliant possible project. I would also like to mention that the planning and zoning department is doing our ADA transition plan now, and Garrison Springs is in phase 2 of it. That will help us discover a lot of things that we need to do in terms of making things compliant. So we're definitely pairing with them and working with them to work through that. I would hate to not do this project to get the, I guess I like to refer to them as pearls, you know, destinations. there and then tie them together, because that connectivity is really what gets you the most points of grants, is connecting projects.
My biggest concern is the fact that we're designing a pathway that's going to limit access. And this is going to be a keystone piece for this entire project. How long is it going to be before our folks with disabilities are going to be able to access that lookout?
I cannot answer that question at this time. As we move through the phases, I would,
Well, wouldn't it be more prudent to build this all at one time to make sure our folks with a disability can get to that?
that would be wonderful if we could do that, but for funding reasons, like, we're just not at that place right now.
I do have a concern with that because these folks are going to come to Garrison Springs hoping to see a centerpiece. But if they have any type of a disability that prevents them from accessing that trail, the only thing they're going to have is a concrete sidewalk. And I believe when we discussed this for the kiosk with pictures on it.
Correct.
I have an issue with that. I think we need to take everyone into consideration when we build this. I think we need to retract a little bit and reevaluate this.
Galloway.
Would you mind reminding me where the fen is? Again, I know you pointed it out, but if you
The
could,
fin is right here.
okay, so it's within that loop.
It would be no different than you go to the nature center and you can access some of them via the mulch path or the dirt path or whatever it is. That would be the same exact situation. Not everyone ADA compliant can go everywhere in the nature trail, but they can access a lot of it. So,
Okay, and then on the money aspect of it, the funds for this trail is from a grant,
no,
or
sir, this is appropriated in the 2023 budget. It's coming straight out of the park fund.
all of it is from the
Yes, sir.
general fund? I see. When you were talking about connectivity and its importance, I was having some trouble following that concept, not because you weren't saying it right. I'm just not very familiar with these terms. What is connectivity and what is the importance of that?
Okay, so here's a really super great example. We're connecting this borough, the school, to this borough, the trail. We're doing the same exact thing at Garrison Springs. You're connecting the fin to Garrison Springs via trail. Anytime that you have two things that are of interest, the Chadwick Flyer Trail or the Garrison Springs, and then you want to go out for funding to try to connect them, it's a lot easier when you have both end pieces and all you need is some. It's a lot better when you're just trying to connect those two pieces. When you have the pearls, the string in the middle is similar to a bind as opposed to having nothing, you know.
So if I may, just following that analogy, we just presented on the connection there to the Chadwick Flyer Trail that connects basically to the school. And I think, was that funded by a
Yes, it
grant?
was a TAP grant.
So what you're saying is that by putting in the trail for the money that we appropriated, it makes it more likely that we will be able to get funds to have an ADA connection.
Generally, when you're going out for grants, anything that takes something and makes it ADA compliant gives you more points. You're more likely to get it. You sort of move up the rankings. And if you're also connecting things that two nice, pieces, that also gives you more points. It's just you're more likely to gain points by connecting. Kind of showcase pieces, I guess is the best way to put it. We didn't have a showcase piece and I'm just saying, hey, I want to make this out there. Someone might come in from Wilson's Creek and say, oh, well, I want to connect these two. And that's more likely because there's just a connection. It isn't the whole entire situation.
I see it. And then you had said something about you were going to be working with, did you say P and Z on ADA compliance? What do you mean by that?
They are working on an ADA transition plan for the entire city, where it takes a look at every one of our properties and basically makes them compliant and puts us on a path to get to ADA transition plan. It takes us to there. They are working on that, and so Garrison Springs will be looked at as, hey, there's a fin and you're not, we want to make it a transition. So that also gives us more documentation saying, hey, there's an ADA plan and we want to move forward with this as well.
And I just want to make sure I'm following what you're saying. So P and Z is coming up with a citywide plan, and then what you're saying is that you are plugging Parks, is plugging in with P and Z to make sure that an ADA accessible walkway is going to show up on that plan.
Correct. And that goes for all city properties. Anything that's city-owned property, it would be City Hall, the OC. We go through every piece of property and we make sure that it is completely ADA compliant and then create a plan that transitions us to get there.
And then what you're saying is, in order for us to get there, we would first put this trail in, but with the emphasis then later, I guess now, to get ADA compliance, we're in a more likely position to get funding for that.
Yeah, it looks better on a grant application if you have an ADA transition plan and you're connecting to showcase pieces. It just looks better on a grant.
And the reason why I'm asking these questions, I do share Alderman Snyder's concern about ADA compliance. Part of the community and really part of many, or the background of many of my votes is I know that there's a senior community that lives here that I would like them to have as much accessibility as possible to the different amenities we're creating. And we have people who are veterans, I'm sure with Mr. Snyder's military service that kind of impacts what he thinks, and we just like that about our community. So I guess if we were trying to decide this vote, what you would be saying is you have the planning and the appropriation. This is what you plan to do. But you are also setting up a strategy to make sure that we can have ADA compliant pathways to the fin, as I think what you're saying.
It just comes in phases and we are trying to do our best to get to where it is. So yes, it would come in phases.
Thank you.
Alderman Snyder.
But I keep hearing the term phase. Can you tell me what phase this would be in and what time frame we're looking at?
I would say that we will apply for the next available grant, which will be available in 2023. Can I promise you that we get it? I can't promise you, but it is a focus of ours.
Do we run the risk of any ramifications by not providing ADA access to this?
No, sir.
How come?
It would be no different than Springfield Nature Center. You cannot go on all the trails. It's no different for us versus what it is for them. We can offer things that they can get to, and we offer the best that we can. I would hate for a lot of people not to get to see it in the first phase, waiting for the second phase to come. We just have to kind of work our way through it. I want to get there. Like, we just built an inclusive playground for 35, 40 years. We haven't had an inclusive playground, and we've just taken this next step. And I would just say, kind of look at it that same thing. Playgrounds weren't built inclusive, but now Ozark can say we are trying to be inclusive.
Again, I'm going back. I believe if we're going to do this, we'll do it right the first time. And we build this where everyone has equal access to it. That's my opinion.
Alderman Flores.
I know we discussed this a while back, and it's been a little bit because we've been working on this for a long time, but I'm just more of a refreshing my memory. Right now, with the way the trail goes around it, it's too steep of a grade, even with the step backs. Do we have steps and stuff involved in that, or is it more like a gravel or a mulch trail right now?
It's no trail right now, like that all has to be, so there's no trail, there's nothing.
I meant the proposed one right here.
Oh, it'll be kind of packed stuff, but it is very harsh terrain. It's very harsh, so you'll have to basically switch back up to it and then go around the outside.
I didn't know if the the proposed route right now, if it was paved, if it would be something that would be ADA compliant, or it's too steep, it's too.
You could not get there.
And that's why we'd have to take a different approach as far as a bridge or something else to get up there, because it's just too much terrain. And there's no like federal funds or nothing like that that's gonna require us to make this ADA compliant. How about like insurances and stuff like that? We don't have any concerns there on wouldn't apply to this. I guess really with that, I remember there being a steep grade issue on this. And so kind of follow up with what Bruce was saying. So basically, if we don't create it, we're never gonna get the funding for the ADA compliant. Is that true? Not saying we definitely will. I'm just saying we won't if we don't
It
have.
is just helpful when, like I said, it is helpful when you're trying to transition to make something ADA compliant. As in, hey, we have this really cool overlook in this fin and we want to take people there. They'll never, like, it'll just take them to a platform where they can see it from the downside. And it's not just ADA compliant, it's everyone else wanting to see it from the bottom side as well. I can't make an elevator to take them up to the fin where they look down. We're just trying to offer it to people now, saying, hey, this is a really cool feature that we've got at Garrison Springs. And the only safe way that we can see it right now is from the top. Because it's being advised from the Pensmore Basin Partnership that we don't go through the bottom of it.
I remember the conservation.
Yeah.
saying
They
that
basically said, take out all the
can't
bridges,
touch anything.
don't let it get into the water, and you don't want it being disturbed. So when you do make this compliant, it needs to be very structured that people aren't going to love it to death and they get in there and they ruin the ecology that's inside this bin. I mean, it's very important that we're trying to stay out of it and let it just be seen from up above. We've talked about a live camera feed where you can see it. It sort of changes through the year. You've got you can look down and see it with no leaves in the fall and the winter. In the spring, it starts to get just little buds and it kind of it's a different look. And the way that the water flows through it is different as well. But that's kind of what makes it interesting, is that we can see it from the top without harming the environment where it is right now.
I guess, I do share the same concerns they have. I do think that if we are to go forward with this on our next reading, I think that we need to make it a priority to take those extra steps to make this happen for AD. I mean, I do want to see this happen, and obviously, I think we all want to see this happen, but I think that we've got to put a pretty good effort into making it to the next milestone to make sure that everybody in the community can enjoy it. And so that would be my input on that.
Alderman Owen.
I don't know if it's similar, but in our world, we deal with a lot of ADA compliance with websites. We hired a couple attorneys to make sure with some of our clients. When we were under the impression, I don't know if this is similar, if it crosses over, but to be fully ADA compliant is almost impossible to be 100% at all times, just due to the nature of different disabilities.
Absolutely.
So there are certain things that you have to just leave it where it is and that you've done your best, because there's ADA compliance encompasses a lot of different disabilities. So it's almost impossible to be for the world of digital, it's impossible. But from what we've talked to a couple attorneys, that is a problem across the board with multiple industries to be fully compliant just based on different disabilities. So it seems like you're dealing with some of that here too, potentially. Is that similar situation potentially with ADA compliance where it's almost impossible to be 100%?
And it is, I think you want to do the best that you can. For example, at the OC, we do inclusion nights, which is where we shut down the entire facility and we basically keep it low light. We don't allow a lot of activity inside there. And that is that ADA compliant? Yes, that is, but it's really transition for people who are with autism and who are overstimulated. You start getting into website design, like you can't have light blues on whites. You can't have different colors and you can't use different fonts. When we type things in our packets, I always put parentheses around the one and then write the word one. So there's a lot of compliance that we have to do, and we do our best. And that's why the ADA transition plan is kind of a cool project, because we have to do it. Like, we're mandated, we have to do it.
Yeah.
But also we want to, right? Like, we want to be as inclusive as we possibly can. That's why one of the best projects that I've been most proud about is the inclusive playground. Like, I think we started it, and I like to think that Nixa copied us and did the same thing. So it just brings, it brings it to light, and it says, okay, let's start transitioning that way and making it an inclusive. I think some kiosks that allow the information and talk about it, there are a lot of people that aren't gonna wanna go there, even if they could walk there, because there's ticks, and there's bugs. I put up a sign today that said, beware of the trail, there are animals on the trail, like you're gonna come across animals. We get people all the time, they're like, there's snakes on the trail, I'm like, okay, I could go out there, but I'm not gonna catch this, I don't want to snake when I get out there. So you're gonna lose people for different reasons on different projects, and yes, it is very hard to be 100% compliant with everything.
One of the attorneys we had worked with had told us that we had clients that were concerned about lawsuits, and as long as there's an action plan in place for, I think it's single A rated versus triple A rated to be compliant with ADA. As long as there's an action plan in place that says we're single A now, but this is our plan to get to triple A. But it sounds like when we talk about the phases that potentially it's like, here's this to that. As long as that's in place, not that we're worried about lawsuits, but it does allow companies to protect themselves, that they're working towards it. Because an example would be a company comes to us, we build a website and a brand, they want to be ADA compliant, but some of their brand colors would contradict the ADA compliance, so they had to change their entire brand to be fully ADA compliant. So that creates this like kind of dollar. The reason I bring it up, it just sounds similar to what you were talking about with the issues that we're trying to deal with here. So.
Okay, Snyder.
Just one more thing, Your Honor, would it be permissible to ask Director Parsons to put his input in on this, because he deals with this quite a bit, just to get his opinion on the trail?
That's fine.
And again, Mr. Parsons, not to put you on the spot, but you
have-
deal with this quite frequently, and I'm just curious what your input would be on.
As far as ADA,
Yes,
yeah, typically anything that we do that's federally funded, there's a mandate on that. Just like everything we'll be bringing to you for the TAP grants, that is mandated. This type of project, I honestly don't know where it says park funding. So, not familiar with the park funding and what the requirements are there. But anything that we bring to you that goes through the OTO or federal or DED will be ADA compliant. So I'm not really familiar with the parks.
gotcha. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sam, I forgot to ask the question when we was meeting. From the house to the lookout, what's the distance we're talking about? I'm not trying to stamp you. I'm sorry. I'm not, I just,
Well,
I was
you
just-
have the pools, so you go across the street
Yeah.
and then you've got maybe another 25 yards before the first pool, and then there's a second pool, so it just depends on how far you wanted to get into it.
Yeah.
Because we're really gonna have to look at, I mean, you're going in and drilling into it and creating posts and doing these things in this environment, so that's something that we've got to look at, as well as like, what does that look like, and how can we preserve and take care of that area to where we don't disturb doing that to it. That's the whole point, right? That we want to view it, but not harm it in any way. Like I said, these are very rare. I'd say tops 100 yards, but
okay.
maybe
And the height of the lookout would be
what's
the height of the lookout?
Oh, the lookout's up on the hill. Why this little guy's not working anymore? Can you go back one, Jen? Hold on. No, oh, no, there it is. So the fin is at the top. Have you ever stood at the bottom of Garrison Springs and you look up at I mean, it's essentially in the valley. It's up on the cliff, which is why you walk up, go trail up around and get up to the fin and then look down on the property.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you how big it is.
Okay.
I could tell you how big what it looks like, but I don't know from
Okay.
the bottom to the top what.
Any other questions before we open this to the public? This is first reading. Okay, since this is first reading now, we're going to open this up to the public. Anyone here who wishes to speak for bill number 3475? I'm not seeing any movement. Anyone here to speak against bill number 3475 from the public? Okay, I'm not seeing movement. I'll close the public portion. Any last questions from the Alderman? Right. Not seeing, Bill number 3475 would be held over now for a future meeting. We'll now move to bill number 3477.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill 3477 on its first reading by title and short description only.
Second.
Okay. So bill number 3477, being presented by title only on the first reading. Motion was made by Alderman Flores. It was seconded by Alderman Galloway. All in favor of voting on motion bill number 3477, do so by show of hands, and it passes.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with Crawford, Murphy and Tilley Incorporated for engineering services related to the Chadwick Flyer Trail overpass.
Okay. Well, welcome back, Director Jeremy Parson.
Thank you. Good evening. I do have just a brief one that we'll go through here. As we've talked about tonight, this is a little more unique in that this is a multimodal path. So it's designed to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists. So we do have certain requirements, and we will be working with federal funds and also with DED funds, thankfully. So last week we presented the program agreement to you, which is basically it's a contract with MoDOT, and that's how we move forward. This week, we're bringing to you the results of an RFQ and giving you a recommendation for a design professional. You've heard the name Crawford Murphy Tilley. They've kind of been extremely involved, not only from the get-go, the planning, but they've also been involved on phase 1. They're currently constructing phase 3. We are about to start construction pretty soon on phase 2, the tracker phase. And this would be phase 4 and 5 I'm showing you here, but tonight specifically, that's phase 4, exhibit A, the area outlined in the blue. So we went out for qualifications. We had 3 potential design firms. I gotta be honest, they had a leg up because they are so familiar with the Chadwick Flyer, all the way from the planning documents to working with the OTO. They live and breathe this. They helped us from the conception of it. And they score very well. This is a very complex project. This is not just a trail, it's also a bridge. It's got structural components, it's got geotechnical components, all these things that come into play. So it is a very, very complex project. And that's why you see all these types of billing. And one of the big things that you'll notice with federal projects is the construction inspection services. We literally have to have people out there every day logging this to make sure that we're staying compliant with the LPA regs and keeping a daily log. So we're happy with CMT. We're it's been fun planning it, and it's going to be fun to build it. You're going to see some real progression over the next few months and years. You'll see phase 2 take off, phase 4 take off. I encourage you to go see phase 3 on the south side of Springfield. So encouraging stuff. Just so you all know, the projections based upon this design contract brought us in at right at 2.9 million. When we first went out, we went after 3.75. Now, I'm not standing here and saying we're going to get it for 2.9, but I want you to know we've got some room there. And because of our creativity and the funding sources, I think we're going to get an excellent product, not just in design, but in the actual finished product as well. We're hoping this will be a statement piece. You know, the overpass was the first thing that came to mind when we started doing all these trail planning. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get there? We figured out a way. And now it's time to take it to the next step and get going on design and environmental. Really, the environmental review will be the first step, because we've got to get in there, and there's some different types of species that we need to get reviewed prior to this fall. So later this fall. But we are, again, extremely happy. I know you guys have been talking a lot about the Chadwick Flyer, but this is just the next step. There's so many steps in the federal process, and we're excited about it. So.
Alderman Flores.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was still
Oh.
on.
Oh, okay, well, okay, anyone from in Alderman? Yeah, I'm not seeing movement. Okay, yes, sir.
Just excited about it. So
Me too.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. Thank you.
Well, since this is first reading, we'll open up this time to the public. Anyone here who speaks for bill number 3477? Anyone here to speak against bill number 3477? Okay, I'll close it to the public at this time. Last chance, any board members, aldermen? Okay. Therefore, bill number 3477 will be held over to a future meeting. Now we'll move on to bill number 3478.
Your Honor, I move that we place bill number 3478 on its first reading by title only.
Okay, so we've now presented bill number 3478 on first reading by title only. It was made by Alderman Galloway. It was seconded by Alderman Snyder. All in favor of voting to discuss bill 3478, do so by show of hands. And it passes.
An ordinance amending the budget of the city of Ozark, Missouri for the 2023 fiscal year.
And I believe our city attorney will be explaining to us.
Mr. Mayor and Board of Aldermen, I think I'm going to step up here too. Certainly, we have been working on this budget amendment for over 2 months, almost 3 months now. And the reason why I wanted to put a PowerPoint presentation together is because it is presented to you in what comes from one line item to another, revenue that's increases or an expense that is decreased. It gets very confusing when you see it in the accounting format. So I put a presentation together so that we could walk through these and I could hopefully better explain what the budget amendments were for. I also wanted to bring this budget amendment to you because I've been here a long time and I don't believe I've ever seen this many different projects that we have been working on. It's a great problem to have, but we've not had this type of funding before to be able to complete these projects. And so it has really been quite a challenge, but a very, very good challenge in that. So basically what the budget amendments are, we're primarily adjusting the line items that we had originally approved for the 2023 budget in order to be able to complete the. I think it's off. There we go. Okay, I got it. To be able to complete these projects. So when you look at the top, the main points are one of the main points I wanted to make in the beginning of the presentation was that from the money that we have received, not just the ARPA funds, but the money that we have invested and is in the bank, we have, with the interest rates doing what they have, enjoyed some increased interest. So we have increased our interest earned on those investments by about $100,000. So that's an additional revenue that you're going to see. And that's why you see that at the very top of that, this is in your ordinance. This is just a piece of supplemental information that goes along with your ordinance. After we make all of the budget amendments that we are proposing, it is going to positively impact the general fund projected ending balance for 2023 by $50,687. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to be where we land on December 31st. I don't know that yet, but just with these budget amendments as proposed, it is going to increase the projected ending budget by $50,687. We've also moved some things around in the ARPA funds that are different than what we originally proposed. Some projects we're going to be able to complete this year. Some projects we're not going to be able to complete this year. So what that also did was it increased our projected ending balance of ARPA funds that go into 2024 by about $91,654. So overall, the amendments are going to do these three things. And I want to just put that kind of in a summary slide for you. So beginning to end with some of the ARPA funds, a few of the things that we have removed from that we're reallocating is that we didn't know if we were going to be able to move forward one of the goals within our park master plan, and that was to continue working on a central park. And we thought that we might be in a position to purchase some land this year. That's not going to happen. So whenever you see the parentheses around a number, that means we're reducing the budget. We're taking that expense away. Okay, so when you see the parentheses, we're removing that. So the central park land acquisition is not happening to the tune of about $250,000. Garrison Springs improvement. There was originally $200,000 of ARPA funds that were budgeted in addition to park funds and other funds, and we're reducing that by $100,000 to be able. We're still going to complete the projects, but we can do that and still reduce that amount. Because again, the reason why this has taken so long is because you don't know what the bids are going to be. You think, you put the engineering design together, you make an engineering cost estimate, but you don't know what the bids are going to come back like. So you pick a number the best you can, and then sometimes you can change that for the better. Another one is park bathrooms. We're not going to be able to complete new park bathrooms adjacent to the inclusive park this year. We're just not going to be able to get that done. There's not enough time to go through that process. So we're also going to reduce that from the ARPA funds. So those are three things there that you're going to see in your budget. Again, these are reductions, not increases. When you see the parentheses, that's what it means. So some of the projects that we are going to be able to move forward with, economic development. There were two economic development line items. One was economic development general, and the other one was economic development specific to the corridor planning studies that we were going to do. You may remember that our corridor plans that we've gone out with an RFQ, we've chosen the engineer, and we're going to be able to move forward with the identifying three very key corridors. We have identified those, but identifying the highest and best uses for those. We modified that a little bit from the scope of work, and we're moving $50,000 over to the project side from the general side to be able to complete that project. Another one that we've just most recently talked about was a project that we didn't even know we were going to do. The Missouri Department of Conservation was a brand new grant. We didn't know it existed. We had an issue. We had to work on that, and that's why we went out for that. That was a $35,000 expense, but we're going to be reimbursed $22,900 from that. You guys probably remember talking about that. We just visited about that related to Small and Cave. Also, what we are doing is we've talked about doing a community survey. We have not done one in many years. It is a very key component of understanding who our citizens are. We've grown a lot, and we've had a lot of population increase. A lot of people have moved from other places, and so we would like to get a handle on that. You can see how we're breaking that down. We did go out for an RFP, that's a request for a proposal. We did get proposals back, and the cost was $45,500. We have not moved forward with that. You haven't seen the contract because we haven't budgeted for it. That's why we're doing that. So the way we do a community survey is we can split that across all of the different funds. So that's something else that you see in your sheet, in your ordinance there. The Brick Street roof. I believe that you all remember when we were going through the Brick Street project, we talked about the importance of being able to, if we're going to invest in the inside, we need to invest on the outside. We actually, the estimate of the Brick Street roof was about $100,000 more than this. And we did get the bids back, and it was $100,000 less than we thought. Now, you're probably wondering why we split it this way. We split it this way across these funds because I wanted to make sure that we were fairly allocating the amount of money that each fund and each department was occupying within the building. That's the fairest way to do that. So the general fund represents a certain percentage of the total 375, water, sewer, so forth and so on, and ARPA is the same thing. So you have the building split up for different departments. You have to make sure that that money comes from the appropriate location based on the percentage that they occupy and or will use. So the Brick Street roof, 375. The City Hall remodel, as we were finishing these projects in 2022, we were kind of at the end of the year, and you've seen some of these expenses that got carried over into the new year. The trash enclosure, you maybe remember we did that at the kind of the end. We were also working on a retaining wall out here that we thought was going to make it, but the whole entire thing needed to be replaced because the concrete was crumbling on the inside and so forth and so on. So those are just a few items that we're using ARPA funds for to pay for the remaining improvements that we did in the beginning of the year and carrying those projects over from 2022. You know that the Planning and Development Department will be relocating to the Brick Street building. That means that the police department will expand into a little more of the Brick Street building. Then legal will be moving over to the city hall. So in order to free up the space for the police department, legal will be leaving there and they will be moving over to the city hall. And in order to be able to do that and remodel that and get them into the administration area, that is what that line item is for. The Jackson Street widening. There's only one way to explain this. We completed Jackson Street with the MoDOT cost share 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. When we signed that MoDOT cost share, just like all MoDOT cost shares, there is something called project underruns and project overruns, and you sign that contract. The situation with the MoDOT project is that they don't finish doing their inspections and getting all of the documents done and having all of the invoices computed for sometimes 2 years, and in this case 3. So we had contracted to pay our percentage of the overruns, and this was, we did have that originally budgeted, but as 3 years had passed, we had never been told that there was going to be an overrun, and we did agree to that, so we were obligated to pay it. And thank goodness we have the funds in the transportation sales tax, which is where the project came out of originally. That is a new expense. It is an obligated expense because we did agree to that within the cost share, but it is a new expense. So you're going to see that in the line item as well. Stormwater projects. In ARPA, we originally budgeted $400,000. We reduced that from 400 to 250. We did save a lot of money on the Oak Street project, as well as some other projects we work with the Public Works Department on, and just finding ways to utilize our own equipment and our own guys to be able to move forward with those projects. They're not totally completed, but we were able to say, look, we fixed these problems, so now we can, address the rest of it as we go forward. And that was a reduction in stormwater. Right away in easement purchases. We knew we had a lot of projects coming up, and the majority of this, I just want to point out, is related to the Chadwick Flyer overpass grant. There was quite a bit of right-of-way and property that we did have to purchase in order to be able to make that project happen and move that forward. We originally budgeted $225,000. We identified an opportunity in where we found that we thought originally when we passed the 2023 budget that the Finley River TDD payment was going to be more, and it actually was going to be less. And so we saved $98,000 there. And then we were also able to take $40,000 from both engineering and planning for a total transfer over to the right-of-way budget of $178,000. So all told, just to give you the number, the total amount of right-of-way acquisition that we had to do to complete the projects this year was $403,000. So, but I wanted to, again, those are the actual amendments that are occurring. Now I'm probably going to have to ask Ms. Payne to help me out with these. These are things she would be better at describing. I've already mentioned the park bathroom upgrade. The reason why you see that coming out as a park fund expense is because we're not doing that bathroom. And I mentioned that earlier on. So we have to take that out of that expense line item, just as we would take it out of the revenue line item and not transfer the money from the ARPA funds, from the general fund to the park fund. Ms. Payne, do you want to touch base on the bus and the park activity expense?
Basically, We have $65,000 in our park activities expense over what we had what we thought we were going to use. We were hoping we can maybe do a deposit on a bus or something for it. But we're going to reduce it. The bus won't actually come out of that line. So I'm taking $65,000 that I was going to spend and moving it to a new bus line, which would then leave the rest of the new bus purchase to come out of where the new bus purchase would come. So because it takes us so long to get these new buses, I need to order it this year so that I can even consider having it for next year's summer camp. Otherwise, it'll be very similar where we order it late and then I end up not getting it until after summer camp's already happened. So like I said, we have 65,000 that's in a park activities expense. I'm reducing that number to move it over so that at least a portion of the bus was already coming from that line that we've already dedicated. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. The pool party birthday income, we've increased it $9,000. Membership fees, we've increased. We think we're going to make an extra 50,000 than where we were. It might even possibly be more than that. We've seen a lot of holds and a lot of cancels because of the pool being shut down. And then with us having another shutdown, it's going to, I don't want to overcommit to what I think we can make on it. So we're saying that we're going to increase revenues, 50,000. Daily fees, we've got a lot of people coming in and out. Same situation. I think 25,000 will make some more. I talked about this last time in the Board of Aldermen. I talked about a DESI grant that we got. Staff went out, applied for a DESI grant. It's $19,000. So we're looking to increase our revenues $103,000 this year. I'm not the button pusher. Oh, another one. Sorry, guys. Facilities and maintenance and repair. Sorry, I have this all written down. We had reduced it a little bit last year. We're basically taking it back up. We've had a few things kind of come in that were just costing us a little bit more. So it's about equaling where it was last year. We need to increase it 20,000. This swim team line. So I don't know why it wasn't in there to start. It's maybe just an oversight. But basically, whenever we do a program, I like to see a revenue line and an expense line. And it just didn't get put in the expense line. So I have a revenue, it's in the swim lesson. When I go to the 2024 budget, I will move it to where it says swim team expense, swim team revenue, just to dedicate it. Like I said, I like to be able to compare it. I can do it internally, but if a citizen were to see it online, they wouldn't know that those were to go there. So for transparency reasons, we're just sort of moving towards trying to get that split up into two programs. Is it a swim lesson? Yes, technically it is a swim lesson, but it's a special program that kind of took off that we didn't think was going to take off. And the kids are really good and it's a lot better performing than we thought it was going to. So I want it to stand alone so that I can really compare those two things. Computers and cameras. Our cameras at the OC are basically maxed out of, I can't get any more cameras. I can't get anything else. And in order to be able to add some new cameras and new storage, I need to get a new server for that. So that's that 20,000 that I need to add for that expense. General programming expense, that includes things like it pays for after school supplies, homeschool PE, and then any special events that we have at the OC. Those programs have been blowing up crazy big. So the more revenues and the more people that attend these events, I have to buy, I think we bought 10,000 Easter eggs and literally every single Easter egg was taken. I mean, it was like a craziness. So the more people that come to these programs, the more expenses I'm going to have. Some are free, some are not free, but it's just part of what the park's mission is. So I need to increase general programming 5,000. The mayor's Christmas tree. We did get that grant. This is similar to it. It is a 22-foot panel Christmas tree. It will go out front of the OC. We're finding this mayor's Christmas tree, which will be your first one. So be exciting. In the past, it used to be small. When I first started, it was pretty small. I think the horticulturist was Santa. And he worked, and we actually did it in the 4-H building. And then it's just basically continued to grow. And it's gotten to where we're having 300-400 people. And we moved it to the OC because of weather. It's just too hard. So we always start at the OC, we load them up and take them down to the park. That's just very hard for us to do. So we're looking at putting a big giant kind of staple piece that looks like this that will be used for our mayor's Christmas tree lighting. It'll be friendlier to everyone involved. And that way we're not shipping and busing and moving people. It takes about 15 staff scattered around the park that I have to beg, borrow, and steal to get to flip on the light whenever the mayor wipes his wand. And so it's a whole escapade. That is the secret of Christmas magic. But this will be much better for us, and it'll help us a lot. So that's another thing that we're looking at doing. I can't remember, sorry. Is that?
So I own this house, I know, like I said, when you just see it on paper and there's a lot of line items, that's doesn't really give you much explanation. So I really just wanted to put this together so that you would understand, what we were doing, what we were completing, the projects that'll be done, maybe some that won't, maybe we can do next time. So if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Alderman Galloway,
Why I kept raising my hand today.
you back in school.
Made back in school. The bathrooms, the park bathrooms, I just don't remember anything about the park bathrooms that we were going to build and can't build and why we can't build them. Where they
Really, it's just timing and having so many other projects. We hadn't gotten around to it. The park bathroom that I'm referring to specifically was park bathrooms that would have been up by the inclusive park. If you go up by the inclusive park, there really are no bathrooms up there. You got a pool and you've got all that going on. So we wanted to be able to put that there. We've kind of had a lot of parents and families ask about that. Now that there is that inclusive park, it would sure be nice to have some restroom facilities. We also have a really just awesome disc golf course that's up there. It is a very, very popular feature in that park. And they've also been asking. So not anything we probably shouldn't do next year. I just don't see it happening in 2023.
and that was my second question. We couldn't get it done this year because
It needs to be designed, and we just, again, I'll just go back to, we've got so many projects going on.
okay,
And we didn't get to that one.
you
So,
have been building lately.
yeah, it's still a priority, and honestly, I think we all really want to put a bathroom up, but we think it would be a great amenity. We just hadn't got there, so wouldn't be surprised if you don't see it in the proposed in the 2024 budget.
And ARPA funds can be used for the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. At this time, since it's first reading, open to the public. Anyone here who was
Thank
speaking for bill number 3478? Anyone against? Not seeing the movement. Last chance, Alderman. Anyone got? Okay, or not, bill 3478 will be held over to a future meeting. Now we're going to we have two resolutions, and I do have a point of order I want to ask our city attorney. This is not the voting show of hands, correct, on resolutions? It's not okay, roll call. Okay, just one clarification. Okay, first we'll go to resolution number 1988.
Your Honor, I move that we read resolution 1988 by, well, no, I think by title and description.
Is there a second? Okay. Okay, the motion is to, that we, resolution number 1988, that we, by first reading, title, by description. It was made by Alderman Galloway, it was sent by Alderman Flores. All in favor of voting on this motion, discuss resolution 1988, do so by show of hands. And it carries.
A resolution approving 3 reappointments to the Town and Country Village Community Improvement District Board of Directors.
Okay, I believe our city attorney.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you about this. As you know, the city of Ozark had various different transportation development districts and community improvement districts that have been created throughout the city. When you do create those are special taxing districts that self-impose. Those often up to 1% sales tax on the goods that are sold there. And in order to do that, there needs to be a CID or an ED board. And the property owners are responsible for putting that board together. And that's what this is. Based on state statute, they are required to reappoint those board members. Over a 1, 2, 3 year term, whatever their terms are, and they're just doing that with this one. This is the one just so everybody knows out where the B&B movie theater that's located.
Any questions for our city administrator? Like I said, I should have made notes. This is like a first reading. This is film to the public. Thank you. Okay, anyone here from the public who would speak regarding resolution 1988? Or oppose? Okay, not seeing any more. I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt resolution 1988.
Okay, there is motion that we adopt resolution 1988 by Alderman Galloway, second by Alderman Flores. All in favor, do so approve this by show of hands. And it carries. Okay. Now we have a second resolution tonight, 1989.
Your Honor, I move that we read resolution 1989 by title only.
And second. Okay. We're going to read resolution 1989 by title only. It was first by Alderman Galloway and second by Alderman Flores. All in favor, do so by show of hands. And it carries. Okay.
A resolution approving the appointment of Mark Speck to the Public Funding Corporation of the City of Ozark, Missouri.
Sir, do you want to say anything, or can I say something about Mark?
Right ahead. Yeah.
Okay, okay, Mark, wave your hand. Okay, Mark made the mistake of answering his phone call when I called him. Anyway, I've known Mark for 30 years, and when I heard about this position being opened up, I appreciate when our HR Mike did a recommendation for him. I went, wow. I mean, it's an easy one for me because, like I said, I've known him for 30 years. I know what I like about him. He's a very good thinker, very calm. And I know therefore through this process, he'll build, make very good decisions for what we need for this. So I was very pleased that he agreed to serve on this board. Any questions from the Alderman? Okay, if not.
Your Honor, I move that we adopt resolution 1989.
Okay. The motion is that we adopt resolution 1989 made by Alderman Galloway, is seconded by Alderman Flores. All in favor to adopt this motion, do so by show of hands. And it carries. Thank you. At this time, we'll be moving into second readings, and therefore this will be no public forum at this time. We'll first go to bill number 3472.
Your Honor, I make a motion to place bill number 3472 on its second reading by title and description only.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. There's motion that we present bill number 3472 by on second reading by title only. It's made by Alderman Owen. It's seconded by Alderman Flores. On favor of us to discuss bill number 3472 by show of hands. And it carries.
An ordinance amending the municipal code of the City of Ozark, Missouri, Chapter 415 floodplain management.
Okay. And now we have Ms. Megan Bischoff.
I don't have anything to add, but I can answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions from? Okay, okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any. And since this is second reading, at this time, I entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adopt bill number 3472 as ordinance number 23-059.
Okay, and okay. There is a motion to adopt bill number 3472 to become ordinance number 23-059. The motion was made by Alderman Owen, it was seconded by Alderman Flores. At this time, we do a roll call.
Alderman Flores,
Aye.
Alderman Snyder,
Aye.
Alderman Owen,
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Hutchinson is absent. We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Very good. We'll move on to our next second reading. It's bill number 3473.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill 3473 on its second reading by title and description only.
And is there a second? Okay. Okay, there is a motion that we move, excuse me, sorry again, can say this many times. There's a motion that we accept bill number 3473 by second reading by title only description. This motion was made by Alderman Flores. It was seconded by Alderman Snyder. All in favor of voting this motion, do so by show of hands. And it carries.
An ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a contract with McGuire Iron Incorporated to drain, inspect, and clean city water towers.
Okay, Director Jeremy Parsley, have anything you want to add from our first reading?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, any questions for him? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm sorry. I have this first.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay, Alderman Alder.
When will they start this if we pass this tonight?
So as soon as we pass it, we will schedule a pre-con with the contractor and then put our final schedule together based upon their availability. So we will go through our normal process and make sure that they're following all the proper steps and procedures. But our intent is to get this done as quickly as possible, but there will be some scheduling, and I'd be happy to share that schedule with you as soon as we get it solidified.
Okay, sounds good. Do you think like this will be accomplished this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for Director Jeremy? Okay,
I move that we adopt Bill 3473 as ordinance 23-05. 060.
okay, is there a second? Okay. Okay, there's a motion to adopt bill 3473 to become ordinance 23-060. The motion was made by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Snyder. Roll call, please.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Hutchinson is absent. Alderman Owen. Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on to our third bill, bill number 3476.
Your Honor, I move that we place Bill 3476 on its second reading by title and description only.
Okay. There's a motion to accept bill number 3476 on second reading by title and description only. The motion was made by Alderman Flores, the second by Alderman Snyder. All in favor of voting on this motion, do so by show of hands. And it carries.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept and enter into a contract for a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Surface Transportation Block Grant and Transportation Enhancements Fund Program Agreement.
And Director Jeremy Parson again.
Nothing to add on this one either.
Okay. And do you have a question? No. Okay, okay. Okay, any of our aldermen have a question for Director? Okay, I am not seeing any, so entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt Bill 3476 as ordinance 23-061.
Okay, we have a second. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to adopt bill number 3476 to become ordinance number 23-061. The motion was made by Alderman Flores, the second by Alderman Snyder. Roll call, please.
Alderman Owen.
Aye.
Alderman Galloway.
Aye.
Alderman Flores.
Aye.
Alderman Hutchinson is absent. Alderman Snyder.
Aye.
Alderman Alder. We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. At this time, City Administrator Steve Childers, any comments for us, sir?
Just a couple things. I think we have a fun event coming up this weekend. I want everybody to remember that. I think the second annual Oktoberfest is going to be this weekend on the square here in Ozark. So hope everybody will be there, isn't it?
Oktoberfest is October 14th.
Is that October 14th?
You got HDR?
I'm way off. Aren't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking for a fighting contest, I
It won't
think.
be crowded at all. You'll have the whole square to yourself.
If not, yeah. And the next meeting is the 18th and our actual non legislative meeting is after the second meeting. So that's gonna be on the 21st, I think.
Yes.
And so we're building that agenda. If anybody has any suggestions for the mayor, let me know, let us know. So anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Least of these is having an event this.
Oh, they
Saturday
do?
night.
Maybe that's what I'm
In
thinking
the
of.
parking lot. They
List
do
of
it
these.
annually.
Yeah,
So everybody come to least of these.
I remember that last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably what you're thinking.
I must be. Yeah, so I'm off on my events. I'm gonna go to something.
Okay. Oh, well, if you're really bored, you come meet the mayor at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning.
All right, yeah.
So, yes, sir.
Just so the city administrator knows, there's bingo and barbecue on the 21st of September.
There you go.
Go to that.
And that's probably accurate.
That's at the OC, and that's sponsored by the Rotary Club.
If not, I would entertain that we go into closed session regarding personnel. I need a motion for this. Okay, so motion is that we go into closed session regarding personnel. Motion was made by Alderman Snyder, seconded by Alderman Galloway. Roll call, please.
Alderman Alder. Alderman Flores. Alderman Galloway. Alderman Hutchinson is absent. Alderman Owen. Alderman Snyder. We have 5 aye votes. Motion carries.
Okay, I heard we'll take a quick break. Yes.
A few moments later.
Okay, there's a motion to adjourn made by Alderman Galloway, second by Alderman Alder, let's do it right, Don. All in favor of the motion to approve, just by show of hands? And it carries.
Adjourn.